Well, I suppose for a little bit of background, Greenman, it's part of the Greenman group. So we are Europe's only, I think, fully integrated grocery-anchored real estate investment and fund management group. So, our largest fund, Greenman Open, it has over 1 billion of grocery anchored real estate across Germany. So we're very much focused on grocery anchored real estate trends. And we find that these trends are really driven by the consumer. Our tenants are some of Germany's leading grocers. We've Kaufland, Edeka, Rewe, but we see them altering their concepts as they listen to what the consumer wants. And I suppose a big trend that we're really seeing at the moment is this focus on sustainability, this focus on environmentally friendly options, environmentally friendly real estate. And we're taking that into account and really focusing on this in 2022 and understanding how we can best maximize our fund's physical infrastructure to support our ESG initiatives. In 2021, Greenman Open became a light green fund under the EU's Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation. And in order to do that, we had to set some targets, some goals that we're working towards. And one of those was that the Greenman Open portfolio will be carbon neutral by 2040. And to do that, we've put a few different kind of steps and stages in place, and they're really things that we're going to be focusing on for the rest of the year. We're retail real estate, in particular, grocery anchored retail real estate, and unlike office space or those really complex residential properties, our buildings are relatively simple and similar across the whole portfolio. And as such, any changes that we need to make across our portfolio are, they're pretty standard. They're pretty relatively easy to implement in order to become more environmentally friendly, more sustainable. We're completing audits at the moment on our properties. We're trying to understand, what our carbon footprint is in order to, you can't monitor it unless you can measure it. So we're really trying to understand, at what point we're at, and then we're going to put different steps and stages in place over the next few years to help us reach our goals. Some of the really interesting ESG projects that we have currently running in this year are we're really going to focus on. There's our vertical farming project, Potager Farm. We have a team of 4 people in Berlin now working on Potager Farm, and I think that the first vertical farm is going to be delivered in August of this year. It's going to be a really true urban farming location. It's going to be in one of our retail centres, the first floor of one of our retail centres actually, in Berlin, and it's going to be a perfect example of really true urban vertical farming. And so that's one project that's running at the moment. And then another one that I think is, considering the economic climate, considering energy shortages, price hikes in energy, I think it's a really, really good time for this project. It's one called Greenman Energy. So we're going to be implementing solar panels. We're going to be putting in hyper fast charging EV stations on our retail centre car parks. And we're going to be generating electricity that's going to be sold, to the tenants, or can be sold back to the grid. And potentially over the next few years, we're going to be able to certify. We're going to be able to sell credits linked to carbon savings generated by PV and the charging activities, which hopefully is going to generate additional income for the fund. We put a lot of time and effort into trying to understand the trends affecting the grocery market, and trying to understand where the market's going to be in 5, 10, 15 years time. So at the moment I would say that the industry is going through a little bit of a fluctuation, post-COVID with the war in Ukraine, and there are certain consumer-led trends and disruptors that are, I suppose, really changing the trajectory of the industry. Key areas of focus, I suppose, convenience would be one. I suppose we're seeing a lot of discussions about the rise of instant delivery startups for grocery. and trying to understand, how that's going to affect the grocery real estate market. We're seeing partnerships with the grocers, potentially solving last mile delivery problems, which I think are quite interesting, and some of the technology that will be implemented there, whether it's online platforms to support these services, whether it's increased use in robotics and warehouse automation. We're also going to probably see a lot of the checkout free stores and smart carts that are going to make the shopping experience more frictionless, more seamless. Technology wise as well, I suppose that continued rise of data, AI, the better understanding and use of data to inform business decisions, more targeted marketing, personalized promotions, tailored stock in smaller stores to suit catchment areas. And then obviously, as I mentioned before, that massive trend of sustainability and health. So in regards to technology, understanding how we can be more transparent on where produce has come from, what those food miles are, what kind of health benefits that those products might have, and understanding how we can clearly and very transparently reflect that, whether it's through using the blockchain perhaps, or even metaverse. It could potentially be a solution for that as well. Urban vertical farming, it's a massive topic for us at the moment, and I suppose supply chain issues have really come into the spotlight now, after COVID and with the war in Ukraine. Through our research, and I think it's quite commonly known. Conventional agriculture alone can't cope. I think what the statistic is that by 2050, 70% of the world's population will be living in an urban environment. Coupled with food consumption habits, that really aren't sustainable. I think it's that 33% of all food produced is wasted. The fact that we can build these urban vertical farms, locating them right in the heart of urban communities, right beside the grocers, right beside people who are consuming that produce. It's going to support a faltering supply chain. It's going to reduce food miles to zero, and hopefully it will help reduce food waste as well. So these vertical farms, the crops are grown in a controlled and closed environment. So that means we don't use pesticides. It means that crops don't need to be washed as a result, which then means that they have much longer shelf life, helping with food waste, or helping to reduce food waste. So I suppose vertical farms, not only are we able to produce crops that last longer, that shorten food miles, we can produce crops much faster. They can have greater flavor, and taste, because we can optimize the light spectrum and provide the perfect environmental conditions for growing the crops, and ultimately produce faster, fresher, tastier, healthier, more environmentally friendly produce. So I think our urban vertical farms, they can really strengthen that supply chain. They can provide another tool in that fight against supply chain disruption, supply shortages. In regards to alternative uses of warehousing, at the moment we're implementing our first farm on the first floor of one of our retail centres in Berlin. So it's not even outside. It's not on a car park. It's within the retail centre. There are endless opportunities, I think, for urban vertical farm locations. As long as access is well considered. Potentially warehouses with good links to grocers. Situated in cities, close to the consumer. That they can all be options for locations of vertical farms. Are highly automated, and it's this automation that really helps to scale our farms. Warehouse automation technology, linking that into the vertical farming operations, it's going to really help overcome any issues regarding scaling up of these farms and help us make use of pre-existing urban spaces. Metaverse has become such a huge buzzword lately. People are really bandying about that word, and they're not really thinking about real life, real world applications. We recently held an event in Dublin actually for our Greenman Open Fund, and we had Shora Shirzad of Mapstar, a German company dealing in the metaverse, come and speak on our panel. And he was very, very interesting. He delved into some of the practical use cases for the metaverse, and I think that's key. Taking it out of this, this virtual reality buzzword that people don't really know what to do with, and really, showing that it can have really practical and useful applications in the real world. So I suppose fitting it into retail, into grocery retail, there's a few applications that come to mind. I suppose one, understanding that you can do education, training, remote assistance, remote training, all through the metaverse. You can simulate that store, you can simulate the warehouse, you can walk employees through that store. They get an opportunity to practice in a virtual world that simulates the physical world, improving, I suppose, efficiencies, improving productivity. And I think that's key, that it's not just a virtual world. However, it's that combination between the physical and the virtual world. So I see that it could be very useful in helping with transparency and information that I'd mentioned earlier. So if you can imagine layering information virtually onto a physical setting, so maybe you pick up your bread or your fruit, and you will be able to see virtually where it comes from, what the food miles have been, the health benefits of that fruit, virtually overlaid on the physical world. I think that could be a really interesting application for the metaverse. And then obviously you can't really leave out the opportunity for immersive sales and marketing, virtual billboards, virtual advertising, offers, and sales linked to products and places within the physical world. I think they could all be really leveraged in the retail industry, especially in grocery retail.